Hi friends, Miss Couch here. I am so glad to be back with you. I hope that school is going well for you now that we are doing all our online classes. I know that you are getting art lessons through Mobile County with some videos each week, so Miss Green and I wanted to make some special art videos where we would try some different types of projects than we might typically get to do when we're in the classroom. So today's project is called printmaking, and I think you can see some of my samples behind me. My daughter helped me make some of these pictures behind me, but we made all of the pictures that you can see behind me with objects we found around our house. I used a fork for some of those things you see behind me. We used puff balls we found in our craft closet. We used cardboard that I took the top layer off of and made it bumpy. We even used some Legos for some of those prints and sponges. So we have a lot of things we worked with, and we used this acrylic craft paint. You can find this if you don't have some at home. They sell it in a lot of local stores: Walmart, Target, Michael's, Hobby Lobby. This is the type of paint we used for making our pieces of art. So I want to show you all the different ways to use these objects I've shown you to make prints, to make really cool pieces of art. So I've got each of the items I'm going to be using to make prints with. I've got a plate. I've already squeezed out some paint in all different colors on my plate that I'll be using. I've got some paintbrushes because for a couple of things I will use the paintbrush to put the paint on the object, and sometimes I'll just dip the object into the paint, so you'll see that as I go. And I'm working with this is just white copy paper. It's just plain printer paper that you may already have at home. And I put down a piece of paper here on the table so that I don't get paint on the table as I'm working. So you could use newspaper or any kind of old paper that you don't need anymore, just so that you're protecting your table as you work. So let me just go through each of my items and show you what it looks like to make a print. I'm going to start with this cardboard. So it's bumpy. I peeled off the top layer because it was smooth on both sides. So I peeled off the smooth layer to get the smooth layer to get the bumps there. I'm actually going to bend this so I can make it into something I can hold. So I've got a little surface right there. And if I start and dip this in green paint, let's see here, don't want to get too much. I'm actually going to use my brush and take some of that off. I don't want too much paint. So you could either paint it on with the brush or you could blot it really carefully in shallow paint. And I hold it and I begin to make a print. And I could add a little more paint if that was not quite enough to continue. So there you go, we're making a print with the cardboard. It's making these nice stripes. Now something else that makes nice stripes is the back of a fork. I'm using a plastic disposable fork, so it won't matter when I finish, I can throw it away. But I'm gonna dip it in paint, wipe it just a little, and then I'm going to press it down. It also makes nice stripes. So that was a fork. Now this is just a little craft pom-pom that we found in our craft closet. I'll show you what it does. This is a small one, so it makes these dots. Or I could do a lot closer together and fill in with it like that. So a craft pom-pom is a great item to use. These are Legos. Now if you use Legos, you've got to be sure your parents are okay with that and that you wash them off when you are finished. It's not hard to get paint off of the Legos, but you definitely want to be able to wash it all off so that your Legos are not the wrong color. So I'm painting the Lego. They wash very easily, but please get permission before you do this. But watch what happens when I put paint on the Lego. Almost like a stamp. Put that down, lift that up, and it leaves these cool dots. I'm going to try it again. So each time I do it, I just add a little more paint. It's a cool effect that I'm using Lego to paint with. pretty cool. If I use the thin Lego, of course, that would be thinner. I'm gonna go back to my green paint. You almost could use that, something like this to make raindrops on a picture, and then maybe something like this long one to make a stem of a flower. Something like that. All right, and then my next item is a sponge. This is just a sponge actually cut into smaller pieces, and what I need to do is just touch it into the paint. I don't want to get the paint too thick on it, but when I start to do this, it leaves a little texture where I add the paint, which is pretty cool. And then here is this fun craft ball, and it's got this fun stuff that sticks off of it, and I thought it was awesome. So I'm gonna try it in some paint and see what it looks like when I blob it in the paint. I think I'll pull another piece of paper over here to show you. When I blob this, it has these little pieces that stick out. I think that's awesome. That's a cool object to make a print with. So I want to show you a couple of pictures you could create using items around your home to print with acrylic craft paint. So the first thing I want to show you is an object. We're going to create an object that actually we could turn into a few things. I'm using my little puffball, my craft puffball, and I'm going to use my yellow. So I'm going to dip it in my paint, and what I want to do here is I want to make a circle with the yellow. And if your puffball starts to run out of paint, you just add more. And we want to make a circle all the way around. And now I'm going to fill in my circle with the yellow paint. So I really just have one big yellow circle. It is all filled in. It's okay if it's bumpy on the edges. That will be fine for this project. So the next thing I want to do is take my fork, and I'm going to dip it in my orange paint. And I'm wiping the edge just a little so it's not too much. And I'm going to start making fork print going around this yellow circle. Let's see if I can do it without going back. I think I'll need to dip it back in the paint every 2 times for this so I don't run out. So I have made these orange stripes come out away from the yellow circle. So you might already be thinking it looks like something you recognize. Maybe it looks like a sun and you say, my piece of art is finished. Maybe it looks like a flower and you want to add a green stem. I could take this Lego here and let's see, I'm going to add the green paint to give it a nice stem coming down. So I'll do it on this end. Oops. And then when I push it down, there I've got a stem. And so that turned it into a flower, which is pretty cool. I also think it sort of looks like the beginnings of a lion. And if you look at my sample I already created, you can see that I turned it into a lion. So a simple yellow circle with orange stripes coming away from it. Yellow circle was made with the craft puffball. The stripes were made with the back of a plastic fork. This stem was made with a strip of Lego. And for the lion's face, I used a puffball also with the gray paint, and then I used a Sharpie to make his mouth. And you could make lots of things with that basic starting point with the yellow circle and the orange around it. For my next piece, it's going to be a little more complicated if you want to try something a little harder on your next piece of art. So we're going to take all these things we've used to make the prints with, and we're going to make a picture with it. So I'm going to start with my sponge, and I'm going to use my light blue paint, and I'm just going to blot, 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 blot all over my paper. I'm going to make the sky with this sponge blotting all over the sky. So I'm using my sponge to create print all over my paper. Now, let me take this, oh, let's see here. I'm gonna use this cardboard with the green paint. I think it worked better to use the brush. I'm gonna take the green paint, I'll make some grass at the bottom of this picture. I'm just gonna come along here, the grass. And I could do 2 or 3 prints and then I'll add more paint. It's almost like using a stamp, and you have to add more ink to a stamp, so I will add more paint to my cardboard as I make my stamp coming down the way to make blades of grass. All right, so now I've got blue sky and green grass. So next, I'm gonna add some gray clouds to my sky. We're gonna pretend that the rain is coming, and I'm gonna use this big fluffy craft ball that I thought was so much fun to make some gray clouds. Now my blue is not quite dry, but I think it's gonna be okay for what I'm doing. But if you make a different kind of picture, you may need to wait till that bottom layer of paint is totally dry so it doesn't mess up your piece. I've got 2 gray rain clouds in the sky. So now, I'll clean this green off of my brush because I'm gonna make some raindrops. This blue, I'm gonna add a darker blue than I used before. So my raindrops are gonna be a little bit darker than the sky that I used. That way they'll stand out a little bit. Let's see if they're dark enough to stand out. If they're not dark enough, I may need to get a darker blue, but I just want to be able to show you. We're gonna have rain falling from the rain clouds. All right, I did 2 prints of that. Look at there, raindrops. All right, so I'll add a little more of this blue paint. It's a little bit darker color. Now, whatever paint colors you have, they may determine what you create, or you may say, hey Mom, could we go get a couple more colors? So there's some rain coming from my rain cloud. I like those. And let's see what I want to add. Maybe a little flower. I'm going to use this puff ball. Let's see, I'm going to do them here in the middle because that paint is still wet. So I'm going to do 2 little flowers, maybe 3. That's the middle of my flower with this puff ball. I'll make one that's a little taller. Okay, got my flowers. This long skinny Lego will be perfect for the stems as I showed you earlier. And just remember, make sure you have permission to use any of these items at home, and then make sure you do a great job cleaning up so that your parents will say, let's do that again sometime. Okay, this is kind of a long Lego, so I'm gonna make it so it comes down. One little stem. You'll see the next one a little bit better. Put this one there. The next stem, it's just like dots, dots. I still know it's a stem. It's coming from the flower. I like that. There we go. So now we have 3 stems. I think I'll do this dot a little higher. There we go. Now it looks like maybe our flowers need a petal or something. So I'm going to use the fork with a little bit of red. I'm just going to use the tip of the fork because these flowers are kind of small. I can make petals. Kind of neat, huh? All with items I found around my house. I did not buy any of these items. I already had them in my house. I even had the paint at my house. So hopefully you've got some paint if you want to try this. And I'm just using the tip of that paintbrush, and I've made a cute little picture using items around my house to print the shapes, textures, and patterns on my paper. So we've got 3 samples of work using the different types of print. We had our scene here with the rain clouds and the rain and the flowers and the grass. And then of course, we started out with that simple yellow circle with the orange fork marks around it. Could have been a sun if I had left the stem off, but then I turned it into a flower when I added a stem. And then I have my other yellow circle with the orange fork marks, and I turned that into a lion. And just remember that to make the lion's mouth, it's a J and a backwards J. So simple, and I added the whiskers. So now you know how to make prints with items from your home, and I hope that you will have fun doing that. And we always have our PTA art page that you can post pictures on Facebook. It's great to see you. Bye.